Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of Grace Ace Attorney Chronicles, and now we are about to pin the crime after such a long 90-minute episode that you guys had to witness. So, I think the other person who could have perpetrated the crime, well, it's obviously these two, but I think it'd be interesting if we can't make her testify. Why don't we make him testify? Excuse me. I'm afraid I was unable to hear you, counsel. Again, please, louder this time. I dare say my learned friend's timid tone is a reflection of the confidence he has in his answer. So that's what all the sweat is about, is it? Gah! Wait, really? I guess really? Summon to me. We already managed to establish where the victim actually collapsed. I'm sure that means we must nearly be at the end of the line. Alright, drone. I guess it really was her. I was gonna say it's Mr. Garrett, but I guess it's her. Defense would like to request a cross-examination of a new witness, my lord. Once again. My assistant made the same request earlier, in order to finally reveal the truth about this case. It's imperative that we must cross-examine juror number 4, Mrs. Joan Garrideb. Me! Oh dearie me! That request has already been denied. Oh, really, huh? But the situation is very different now. Mrs. Garrideb, answer me this. What do you want now, you little toad? At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garrideb. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited. And to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened a window that looks out over Briar Road. Well, what of it? You threw this book at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the open hinged casement window, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way to what we know now to be the true scene of the incident. Yes, as I said, what of it? During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just books, but anything you could lay your hands on, including a knife. So, let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Garrideb. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back, have you really never laid your eyes on it before? Oh! Tell us the truth. I don't recall. Oh, no. Seriously. Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up that I threw at my husband? Anyway, the man over there with his old regalia said all members of the jury needed to testify, did he? Conveniently, yes. No, I have no recollection of saying that at all. Juror number 4. Oh! Make no mistake. You jurors are not special in any way. You are not immune to the judicial process just because you're in the juror. If you know something about this knife, madam, let the truth come out. But that's just common a garden knife. Could have been from anywhere. You have several like that at home if one were missing. How would you expect me to know? What's that? Oh, are you joking? What are you saying? Please, Miss Garrideb. One missing. You listen to me. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought of that. I injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it. Oh, the poor woman. She's guilty, isn't she? So, yes, I want evidence. I want to see hard evidence if you're going to insist on this being my fault. You're going to have to prove me that I threw that knife if that's what you think. Come along now, chop chop. Do your worst. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, I think it's pretty obvious if I had evidence like that. Believe me, I would have thrown it at her already. Then take the stand, juror. Oh! The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman. Thank you, Lord Von Zieks. I'm going to have to testify? Juror number 4. As I'm sure you will appreciate having observed it with your own eyes today. Witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed. Truths of which the witnesses themselves may not have been aware. Oh dearie me! So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Garrideb. And mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. Do you concur, counsels? Certainly, my lord. Oh, that's what I'm hoping for, my lord. This is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. I'm here in the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer. Witness, state your name and occupation. Oh, yes, my name is Joan Garrideb. Oh, I am, well, I'm a juror, and such like. It sounds like even she doesn't know if she's a housewife or a maid, or what anymore. The court has decided your testimony is required in order to clarify matters in this case. Do you understand, madam? Oh, yes, my lord. You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth from me. Oh dearie me! Chin up, Joni. Nothing to worry about now. Yeah, he's here. Oh, I didn't know you were here, John! Wasn't already you in the room that day? Old thing, was it? Rather think I ought to testify as well, don't you? But what about your knee, dear? Don't you worry about that. Hardly notice it. But I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade to face disciplinary action alone. Oh, John. I presume you are Mr. John Garrideb. Yes, sir. Former 2nd Lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Numberland Fusiliers, sir. See my fair share of action and now living the quiet life as it were. The quiet life? Were you not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse on the day in question? Well, yes, quite. I believe this may present a first in the proud history of the British court. Calling a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the British court will hear your testimony now. Juror number 4 and that of your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question. Sir, at once. The Battle of Garrideb. Yes, on the day you're referring to. The wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now. Knocked the candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out, though, and it got the window open. Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find at the throw at him. Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I noticed 1 or 2 missing, I'm afraid. If that barely thing in the victim's back was really one of ours, you'll have a job proving it, I think. So we gotta prove that it is theirs. It sounds as though this was quite the battlefield in your household that evening. Although an entirely one-sided assault, it seems. The enemy caught up us on the hop, sir. Had no choice but to dig in and take defensive measures. But to be honest, if the enemy had kept shelling us for another minute, we'd been toast. Of course, a veteran such as myself It's only too aware of every battlefield you're just a gnat's whisker from death at any moment. Are we still talking about a marital quarrel here? Well, I must say I'm dubious that this testimony will shed any light on the origins of this jackknife. In combat, one's focus narrows such that surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they already testified already. This may be a dead end. Von Zieks may well be right. Well, whatever the chances, we only have this last cross-examination to cover the truth, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, I'm afraid so. Very well, Counsel. You begin your cross-examination. The Battle of Garadeb. Press everything! The reason is what you told us yesterday, I believe. Yes, that's right. If I remember correctly, it all started because of a note that was stuck into the pages of a book belonging to Mr. Garadeb. A rather passionate note, in fact. But Mrs. Garadeb found the note, discovering her husband's little secret. And she gave him a mighty number of slaps across the face for it, too. What sordid state of affairs? Hell on earth. I say, when a chap says he can't resolve such things, it's common decency not to drag it all on. And besides, half of it was a wide of the mark anyway. A likely story. These waters run very deep. And what transpired next after those multiple blows to the face? Yep, you knocked the candlestick open, got the window open. And the fire also spread some of the items of furniture, didn't it? The bookcase, my armchair, anything of mine really. Just so happens there was some bathwater around that evening, so I sloshed that about to put it out. A most precarious situation you put yourself in. Ours is a 3-story townhouse on the west side of the street, where the water main isn't connected yet. Have to draw water from a public water pump during the day if you need any, you see. The lodgers are always moaning that they can't get any water at night. Although, that little mustached Japanese man buys water in bottles, I believe. The defendant, Mr. Natsumi, you mean? Yes, he receives a stipend for his studies, you know, from his home country. Can't you imagine being able to brew a pot of tea? At all hours, he's obviously well off. Have you actually seen the state of the man? I believe he uses all of his income to buy books. Well, anyway, the point is, I was able to douse the fire with water, fortunately enough. Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find off the toilet. Okay. Even though the room was on fire. As far as I was concerned at the time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw. That is most certainly not true, but suicidal takedown, Mr. Naruhodo. How did she know I was thinking that? She read my mind too. So please cast your mind back and try to remember. Was a knife among the items that you threw at your husband that day? In all honesty, I don't recall, but I did feel I must point out that I'm no monster. Let me see. Some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel, and a sponge, and that... Huh? Do you have something to add, sir? Mr. Garadeb. Are you high? Don't shoot! Sorry, I beg your pardon. Your wife's remark just now brings something to mind. No, nothing of any significance, no. Just that the barrage of projectiles the old thing launched in my direction was somewhat more solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and the fire poker I seem to recall. Ouch. And the woman's aim is uncanny. She let it direct with every bat. Ah! Good grief, woman! We're not at home now. This is a court of law. Oh, dearie me. Ever so sorry, dear. What's she even doing with a teapot in here? Honestly, John, I would never have thrown such things at you, obviously. Well, take a look at this then. How do you suppose that happened? Your pipe, sir. Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out of one of her soft projectiles. She did, yes. And once she went to pick the thing up, it was broken in two. I like to see a sponge do that sort of damage. I see, your pipe was broken. It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Anyway, I managed to bandage this thing up for now. Huh? You're one to exaggerate, aren't you, dear? I wonder what should we make of this account. Could be important. The defense believes Mr. Garrett's remarks just now could be of great significance. This war veteran's words only tell us one thing. Betray a fiery wife, and pipes as well as hearts may be broken. Sentimental wisdom perhaps, but hardly worthy of adding to it as a formal testimony. Indeed. Common sense, one might say. One? In that case, would you permit us to examine the pipes, sir? Well, I don't see why not. Oh, dearie me, there you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with a young lady. Very well, the court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence. Garrett's pipe apparently fell to the floor during the domestic dispute he had with his wife and broke. Hope I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo. No. You actually did fine, giving us a piece of evidence I can examine. What? Oh, something just twinked inside the chamber of the pipe there. Yes, I saw it. Something stuck there, I think. Let's turn it over and give it a shake. What's this? It's a tiny fragment of metal. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. Tip of a blade, surely... Seriously? It was inside that thing? It couldn't be. But why? It looks like in a sorry state with that bandage around it, doesn't it? But for some reason, it feels slightly ominous to me. It's like it's trying to shout out for a warning. Probably because the same blue as Mr. Garretev's dressing gown. I suppose it must have considerable sentimental value to Mr. Garretev, given that he's gone to the trouble of repairing it like this. Either that or he can't afford to replace it. It's a type of a knife blade stuck in Garretev's pipe. This is the tiny piece of metal we found in the chamber of Mr. Garretev's pipe. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. Tip of a blade. Something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? I don't really know. There's just something niggling me. I can't quite put my finger on what it is. Perhaps in that case, it'd be wise to examine some of the other pieces of evidence again. Alright, let's examine the knife. Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo, just at the tip. A small piece of the blade appears to be missing. Wait, part of it's missing? I could be wrong, but I've just got a feeling. Remember this? Ah, that's the tiny fragment of metal we found inside of Mr. Garretev's pipe. Yes. And just maybe... Oh my, it's a perfect fit! Somehow I just knew it. Ah, so that knife is really connected. But what truly happened? I was feeling rather disappointed for you that your request was turned down. So she killed her, Pepe Hens, while she was destroying a knife. Oh no, but I don't know what's the tip of the knife doing inside his sting. Oh no, it's fine. Thanks to Satos, we have some new evidence to work with. We should examine it carefully. Well then, thank you for that rebuttal, Mr. Garretev. Now if you could return to the crux of the matter, what can we tell about the court about the knife used to attack the victim? Plenty of knives around our place. I can't say if I noticed that one or two went missing, I'm afraid. Sorry? Would you care to elaborate? Nothing to say, really. Rather partial to a spot of carbon, you see. Pipes and whatnot, fishing tackle, you know, that sort of thing. There's a passion we both share. I like to carve a little wooden trinkets too, and there's my leatherwork. Sorry to say we're always losing knives about the place, where we have dozens of the things. They sell them at the market sometimes, 20 for the price of 19. Needless to say, I snapped them up. John prefers to use 2 knives at meal times, too, instead of a knife and fork. Now, John. We don't want people to think I'm some sort of savage. Here we go again with the scaldings. Why are they being so evasive? I imagine it's because they don't want to believe it. They can't bear the thought that it might have been one of their knives that injured the victim. It's entirely understandable, of course, but still, was it really accidental? Go on with your testimony, witnesses. Sir. That body thing was in the victim's back really was one of ours. You got a job proving it, I think. So you have no intention of admitting it was your knife, unless we can produce proof. Even though there is no other credible possibility of Mr. Natsume is innocent? You forget my Nipponi's friend. That it has yet to be established that the accused is not responsible for the attack. As if I could forget. If only there was some way to know who handled the knife, but I suppose visually like that is just a dream. Perhaps you're thinking of a fingerprinting... Mr. Naruhodo, what? You mean it's not a dream? That sort of misery really exists? Whenever people touch anything, they leave behind a unique pattern from their skin, or so they say. I can't see anything. There are already countries in the world where these so-called fingerprints can be used as evidence. Lord Strongheart is currently discussing the matter at the Ministry of Justice. Yes, I believe we are rapidly approaching an area of scientific methods of investigation. But for now, we shall have to find an alternative method proving our assertion that this knife found in the victim's back was originally in Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's house. If only I could transplant this whole incident to several years in the future. Extent of their testimony, is it? What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I think we've heard all this before, but to be honest, I can't say I'm particularly confident that we'll be able to prove anything new from this testimony. But in this cross-examination, it's absolutely essential that we establish how this knife came to be at the scene of the crime. Yes, I know. I'm sure both of them would be feeling very worried that it was in fact a knife belonging to one of them that caused the victim's injury. You could find even a tiny shred of evidence to support that theory. It would clinch this trial for us. It would explain everything. Yes, it would. So for Seki-san's sake, we must find the last crucial piece of evidence. Alright, bring up the tip of the knife. It's over. Here we go. Mr. Garadeb, could I ask you to take a good look at this, please? Yeah, you can ask, but I can't see a bally thing. You can't. Used to call me Dead-Eye Deb, back in the regiment, of course, but that was some time ago now. Even when I'm trying to enjoy a large print book by the fire these days. I struggle to tell a B from a D and a P from a Q, to be honest. Oh, he does. Dearie me, it's rather unwearing being asked about every other letter and other word. You must be very dusty. What is that? A tiny scrap of metal? Yes, certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear at first is just a tiny scrap is in fact a crucial piece of evidence. Interesting. And where did the defense come by this evidence? It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Garadeb's pipe. My pipe, you say? By Jove, I wonder how that got there. And what precisely does this fragment of metal signify, Council? Did she plant it there? But why? Are you suggesting it is some way related to the matter of the stabbing on Briar Road? Yes, I am. What? When put together with another piece of evidence that's already in the court record, I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of this case, my lord. Yeah, let's bring up the knife. You appear rather confident in that extraordinary test statement, Counsel. Very well then, present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence is paired up with this fragment of metal allegedly reveals the truth to the entire case. Game over. This is the knife that we found in the victim's back. If you look closely, you will see that there is a small piece at the tip of the blade that is missing. A common issue with the inferior blades sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals who use them regularly leave the tips lodged in their victims' bones. And what of this particular knife? No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate, now languishing somewhere in the spine of the victim. No, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is the very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Garrideb's pipe. Good grief, Lord Von Zeeks!
I don't believe it. The knife from the crime scene and this fragment of metal are a perfect match.
Good golly gosh! Guilty. Order! Is this some sort of Eastern sorcery?
This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle.
A miracle? So Von Zeeks has figured it out, has he? Counsel, explain this extraordinary coincidence at once. Yes, my lord, the crucial point we have to ask ourselves here is, when did the fragment of metal find its way inside Mr. Garrideb's pipe? Something that was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimony.
Had the sting in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked the clean with one of her soft projectiles. She did, yes. It'll never been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Oh, dearie me.
During the argument between those two that occurred as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Garrideb flung this knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Garrideb in striking the pipe in his hand at the time,
which caused the tip to break off, of course.
Good lord! Yes, and that is when the tiny tip of the blade found its way inside Mr. Garrideb's pipe.
The chances of that are million to not one!
And yet there's no other credible explanation for how the tip of the blade ended up in your pipe. Then, after losing its tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew onto the open window. In short, this knife, which fell from the window of the Garrideb's house, is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back on the street below. Oh gosh, oh dear, oh!
No!
No! So, there was no motive. It was basically
a full-body theory, I'll give you that.
Huh?
A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points, plausibly arranged to create an almost passable vintage. Allow me to toast my new friend's characteristically Nipponese approach to bottling his argument.
Sorry?
But after all, it's just a theory. The bottle, I fear, is corked. Because you see...
He's putting his foot...
It's spoiled by an insurmountable inconsistency.
Insurmountable? What? Lord Von Zeeks, explain yourself. What is this inconsistency you claim to have identified?
An inconsistency in the most simplest nature, my lord. The victim was found with the knife planted in the middle of her back.
Yes, in her.
Ah!
That's right! You silly little man!
Now, Joan, old thing, what are you getting so excited about? Let us consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking around the pavement before being stabbed in the back and falling to the ground. If that knife struck her had fallen from above, there's no possible way it could have planted itself on the victim's back. Gah!
Ora! Quite right, you see, it's exactly right. The knife had fallen from above, and would have struck her on the top of her head.
Well,
Lost for words, look.
I knew it. I never liked this theory in the first place.
I don't know, though, what really did happen. It would appear that the defense has made a rather spectacular blunder.
if a theory has even one inconsistency, it cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is history.
What do we do now? We were so close. I could see the truth. I was so sure we were on the right track, but now the way has been blocked completely by just one simple inconsistency. Or in other words, we just simply need to eliminate that one inconsistency, and that theory will stand. Mr. Sato. Mustn't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. You were just caught off guard, that's all. And your mind went blank. But if the path you are on indeed is correct, then a way will present itself. Key to this incident is the court record. I'm sure all the information you need is there. What? Am I really missing something? Lion, I think it has to be the book, right? And every time I can't believe how badly burnt it is. I can't believe what a terrible waste it is. When I look at this damage, the more I'm sure it must have happened very recently too. Damage by fire radiation. Why does that seem significant somehow? That's strange.
It seems you have nothing to say, my Nipponese friend. Well, your silence speaks volumes. A tacit acceptance of your theory is fatally flawed.
It's the book. He must know the book. Yeah, it's the book. This inconsistency doesn't mean I was on the wrong track. It means that I need to sharpen my mind and dig deeper for the truth. It's a test! Yes. If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way it could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that is.
What are you implying?
Counsel. There is a piece of evidence in the court record that can explain this inconsistency. Can explain how the knife that fell from above could have pierced the victim's back. You already have the answer. Oh goodness!
Utter madness!
Surely this must be the last time. Counsel, present the evidence for which you speak. Yeah, this is the last inconsistency, the final piece in the puzzle. can successfully make it this, the truth will be laid bare at last. Evidence that explains how the falling knife became lodged in the victim's back is... the book. Yeah. This fourth book found at the scene. It's the final piece of evidence the defense will present. The burnt book. And that's that same fire. It's not Mr. Garadeb's book. Yes, and to understand its significance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. This photographic print clearly shows the book in question, and the victim holding it in her hand. But as we all know now, it was the police constable who put the book between her fingers like that. Quite so, as part of the wholesale transporting of the crime scene up the opposite side of the road. That's true, however, as part of his testimony, Constable Beat made an extremely enlightening statement on that point. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand?
Oh, well, stop. That's how I found it when we first ran over to the scene. This victim was already holding the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand.
In other words, the victim had already picked up the book of her own volition, and clearly that must have been before she suffered the knife wound. Well, I should say so. After being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she had been doing much of anything. So question becomes, why did the victim have that book in her hand?
But Jingo! I think I'm beginning to see what may have happened now.
Oh dear me!
We all know that the book fell from the top floor of the Garadeb household onto the pavement below, at precisely the moment that the victim was walking past.
Yes, exactly that moment. The young woman was walking around the street in the light fog, and all of a sudden, a barrel fell right in front of her. The book that I drew. Yes, Mrs. Garadeb, what do you think the woman did? What would you do if you were walking along and suddenly a book landed in front of you on the pavement? Oh, I really can't imagine it, but I suppose she might have reached down and boom, and picked up the book up, and boom, the knife was thrown. Yes, that is exactly what the woman in fact did. She picked up the book. Oh heavens! And when the woman reached down to pick up the fallen book up, boom, what position would her back have been in? That's right, facing the sky, completely and utterly defenseless. And then in the very next moment, while the woman was bent over picking up the book, boof, the knife fell. The next object fell from the room above, the jackknife straight into the middle of her back. And at the same time, walking by the chance directly behind Miss Green, was the defendant, Mr. Soseki Natsume. Well, I never! It appeared that Mr. Natsume, that the woman simply collapsed to the floor, on the floor. In the dark and the fog, he didn't see the knife falling on her from above. Oh! And from the other direction, the constable and his wife saw no one but the victim and her apparent attacker. So there was never a real culprit to run from the scene in the first place. No, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. And that is the real truth behind this case. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb, the very first time you showed me that knife, I had my suspicions. I wondered perhaps it might have been something like that.
There, old bean.
Poor Mrs. Garadeb. Of course, I never meant for anything of the sort to happen, but it was all my fault, wasn't it?
I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book, and I threw that knife as well.
So it was just an accident. I see.
John, dear.
It's alright. I know.
I'm ever so sorry. Truly. I'm sorry!
And she's fallen down. He's trying to carry him,
Lord Von Zieg's full of the news of Mrs. Garrideb.
She's been taken to the infirmary. It would appear that today's events have left her in an especially flustered state. However, I believe she will recover in due course. There is no cause for concern.
Yes, beknownst to themselves, they caused what could have been in a terrible tragedy. They shall have to prepare themselves for the consequences of their actions.
There is some good news, however, my lord. I have just had word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily, and the doctors believe she will regain consciousness soon.
Strange. We've been talking about the victim on all this time, but we never once met her. How wonderful. The woman is out of danger, it seems. Yes, that is good news. So, Mr. Natsuki's Natsume. Yes. On behalf of our fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture, and to have repaid with an immeasurable kindness. Please accept our heartfelt apologies. No. It is me who should be begging your pardon. Oh no, Mr. Natsume. That evening, when a young woman just collapsed on the pavement before my eyes, I jumped to the wrong conclusion again, in my confusion. What conclusion, sir? I was sure that the woman was dead. Yes, Constable Beats said the same thing, didn't he? He thought she had been killed too. I suppose she must have looked completely lifeless. It's been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain now. I still can't get used to the life here. I can't relax. I'm sure there are evil spirits lurking in the fog, like they are haunting me. Poor Saseki-san. His imagination really got the better of him. Yes, poor man. So, when it happened, I thought the young man had been taken by the fog spirits. I should have never dropped my books like that and run away. I should have called for help, for a doctor, for the police. Instead, I managed to create a rift between the relationship of our trust between our two empires, and for that, I am truly sorry. Here we go. One can indeed say that the sort of mischievous spirit has been worked at here, I think. One created that chain of unfortunate mishaps. We were befooled by this spirit and led to false conclusions. And thanks to Lord Von Zieks and our long lord here from the east, that chain has now been broken and the spirit exorcised. I heartily commend you both. Oh. And now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Yes, my lord.
In concluding this trial, I must ask one last time for your decisions regarding the defendant's culpability. Are you ready to present your findings to the court?
As the former of this shirt, I could assure you we've reached a fair play and just conclusion.
Oh, I do declare that the truth can be extremely cruel at times.
Well, I didn't suspect the new woman next to me, that's for sure.
sitting in for the old bean while out of action. You know. But I know what our decision would be.
Does that mean I can finally be able to get out here and start work? Well, it's about time.
Oh, sure, I'll have to co-work up a story to tell the grandchildren when I get home, won't I?
Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby demand your final decisions. Mr. Foreman.
Not guilty.
Ah! Ah!
Yeah! 6 votes to none. Not guilty. Yeah!
Very well, Mrs. Noseki Natsume, here I pronounce you.
Not guilty.
Wow! Wow! Wow!
I haven't cheered since case number 1. Feels good, man.
And finally, Mr. Natsume. Oh, yes, Lord Sir. You're now a free man once more. It's my hope that you will continue to further your education in British culture. And may you never again be brought up before me. Oh, yes, sir, of course. On my life. I swear I'll never set foot in a courtroom again. I'm transported to tears. Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned.
Old defendant's empty chamber.
Oh, locum.
Wait, you mean me?
Of course, there's another locum here.
Is there even one? Compared to original locum student Mr. Naruhodo, Squire, has your name become rather short, hasn't it? What's wrong with my using my actual name?
Well, at last I'm free. Joyful, joyous, jubilant, jubilation. Heady, hearty, happiness, hurrah!
Oh, I'm pleased Mr. Natsume is delighted. Would it be so hard to just say that then?
Locum, you did it! You saved me from the brink!
Well, what happened to the poor woman was no way your fault after all. I'm just glad everything I can see that now.
No, not that! Lovely, loyal, locum, lawyer!
Yes?
I mean, as I said before, I'm not just gotten used to life here in Great Britain. Every time I look over my shoulder, I see foreigners. I see towering brick buildings. And higher up windows, I can see them looking down at me, laughing. Look at that little hunchback.
Oh dear, I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsume.
But today, you, locum lawyer, gave me the boot. You stood firm behind that burial bench before all that babbling British. You battled to the bitter end, laying bare the baffling truth. And when I beheld the blinding fireworks among the beams of the Bailey's roof, I bellowed, "Behold, the best barrister ever born!"
That's very flattering, and we're very pleased for you.
This has given me a wonderful anecdote to recount my old friends back in Japan.
An anecdote? Is that what's become of my hard work?
Ah, there you are, my dear fellows. I apologize for keeping you waiting. I rose late this morning.
Mr. Sholmes, what a pleasure to see you.
I see I'm not a moment too soon. A disaster has been averted, I'm glad to say.
Oh.
Our trial shall begin presently, Mr. Naro. Wish you the very best about that.
It's just finished.
What? No! Then my haste was in vain. Hurrah! It's you! Hurrah! Sholmes! Oh, have we met, sir?
This is Mr. Natsume, the man you had arrested, Mr. Sholmes.
Ah, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters have taken place in the gloom. Either of your breaking lodgings or that prison cell.
I simply couldn't place that curious face in the light.
Charming.
This is all your fault, Herlock Sholmes. You're the reason I had to go through all this terrible ordeal. I'm going to give you a piece of my mind.
My apologies, sir, but I assure you, I have placed you now. You're the fellow who abandoned a poor young lady and ran off, are you not?
Ah.
She had been taken to hospital more urgently. Perhaps she would have regained consciousness by now.
Oh.
It was unavoidable, I'm sure. We are all but human after all. Anyone would have been shaken by such an experience. I do feel very bad about how I behaved. Well, never mind now then. What was that you wanted to say to me, sir? Nothing. Priceless. Oh, I'm sorry, really, but that was quite priceless. Poor Soseki-san. Still, on the bright side, you have an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny. And it would seem you were not even found guilty. But there is no bright side.
Whatever do you mean, Mr. Natsume?
Even after this, I'm still cursed by the spirits and now by the Reaper.
Ah, but Lord Von Zeeks,
I haven't forgotten, you know, what facing that man in court means. Even if you're found not guilty, you're still doomed.
It will be alright, Mr. Natsume.
Hmm?
The Reaper appears trying to make trouble. I will protect you. Yeah. Wait, why me? God dang it. What a perfectly executed, subtle takedown. Much as I like to be turned on my head, a bit of a warning might be nice next time, Miss Susato. Well, in the end... So, Mr. Natsume, what do you tend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experiences to your friends back in Japan.
Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon.
Oh.
It's already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I visited libraries, bookshops, and I've been honored the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of the literature here, and the city has been shaped. I've come to realize that it's my calling to stay at home and tell my fellow countrymen about it.
That's a very touching, Mr. Natsume.
Oh. Perhaps you're in less veiled terms. You wish to withdraw halfway around the world to escape the terror of the Reaper's curse. That's not it at all. The more I learn of literature, the more this strange feeling claws at my insides. I feel compelled to return to my roots and attempt to pen up my work on my own.
Oh, I see. Work of literature by Soseki-san. Could it be an interesting read?
Ah, what about Miss Susato and yourself, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry, what about us? Will you return to Japan alongside your mustached compatriot? Why would we?
A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London. And only does now we finally found our feet.
And you're accompanied in a hotel at present, are you not?
That's right, we are in need to find lodging before it bankrupts us. I calculate we can only afford another 10 nights before our entire budget is exhausted.
Oh then, you can take my lodgings.
Oh, the windowless room?
Ah, but what it lacks in windows. It's more makes up with the floor, ceiling, and walls.
Great.
And of course, be happy to leave behind a cursed evil spirit.
Oh my, an evil spirit?
Oh yes, it tries to suffocate while you sleep. It's unfireable wake-up call.
Well, think about it, if that's alright.
Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me?
Really?
Well, a vacancy has conveniently presented itself. It was up in the attic, I might add.
Are you sure it isn't just a storage loft?
I spoke with the landlady this very morning on the matter of price. Iris is cleaning the room as we speak. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of.
Oh, this is simply wonderful. What an honor to be invited to taking lodging to the great detective's office attic. I'm too overcome for words.
So suggestion we should look elsewhere out then. Well, then it's settled. Iris will prepare a welcome dinner this evening, and you must come too, Mr. Natsume. I insist. I don't know what to say, but thank you, and yes.
Wonderful. Then I'll go complete the paperwork for your formal release, Mr. Natsume. It shan't take long.
Somebody's happy. Locum, I knew that you wouldn't let me down. I'm truly delighted that I met you here in London.
Likewise, Mr. Natsume, it's been a privilege meeting you too. It's a shame we're going to have to say goodbye so soon.
Well, I've come to realize I belong in Japan. But Locum, we will meet again one day.
Yes, I'm sure. And hopefully by then I'll be a successful lawyer.
Hopefully by then, I'll be a successful author. Well, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes, Mr. Sholmes.
I have a little doubt Mr. Natsume will be released in time for dinner this evening.
And so, with Soseki-san's innocence successfully established, we rode with Mr. Sholmes to what was become our new home, 221B Baker Street.
Well, this is an attic.
Found near February 4:41 p.m. The attic room. So this is to be our new office, yes.
Our office.
I rather like the sound of that. Me too, it's simply wonderful, isn't it?
I hope you can see this, Kazuma. It's only a small step, but I like to think we're gonna get a little closer to your dream now. So, my dear fellows, do you like the place?
Oh, what the? This is different. Mr. Sholmes, thank you. Yes, thank you so much. It's a delightful room, Mr. Sholmes. I simply adore it.
Good, I'm pleased to hear it. Iris and I are delighted to welcome you.
Oh, I hope everyone's hungry. It's nearly time for dinner. We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsume arrives. We'll have a lot to celebrate. Iris, must let me help you. Alright then, Susie. You can be in charge of the salad. Splendid.
So, Mr. Naruhodo, how does it feel to have your own office in the capital? It's very exciting, actually. I can't help but wonder what adventures wait us. Those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at these premises. Until I discovered the dark truth about the city of London, that is. Sorry? Dark truth. London is a glorious place full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity, and mirth. But the brightest of lights casts the darkest of shadows. Shadows? What do you mean? Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So once again, Mr. Naruhodo, welcome to London. Finally, a proper introduction. Looks like we got ourselves a mystery behind our hands. Of course, at the time, I had no idea of the significance of those words Mr. Sholmes so casually spoke, but it wasn't long before my turn that came to
lift the facade and see the true depth of the murk that lay behind it. End. Landed in London. Alright, let's save our progress. Alright, I think that'll be it for today's episode. So, next time on Grace Ace Attorney Chronicles. Let me start on episode 5. Which hopefully should be the last episode of this game. Before we move on to the next game. I guess I'll see you guys all next time.